All right, you guys. Good morning. Before we get into Men in Black today, we got to talk. I need to clarify my thoughts for you on these riots and protests going on in LA and Trump's response. It's about time we break all this down. I always like to give these issues and topics a couple days to kind of marinate to see how all this is going to play out. And then that's when we get clarity, right? We set aside the emotional response and we're looking for clarity. And I also want to be clear on where I stand with all of this because some of my statements have been mischaracterized. Yes, we need to be tough on illegal immigration, and it's unacceptable for illegals and protesters to damage property, loot businesses, be violent, and burn stuff, right? Now, having said all that, if we were looking at this through the lens of a bubble controlled situation, all of that would be true, but there's something else at play here. Because I believe this whole immigration thing was a straw man from the beginning. And if we remove the emotion out of the situation and we look at the history of how illegal immigration has been used to destabilize economies, to destabilize other countries around the world, look at Europe, look at the UK, then we would remember this and we would know that this was an orchestrated event from the right and the left. We would remember this, wouldn't we? But for some people, for some reason, people are turning this right back into a right-left paradigm issue. And I'm going to break down why they're doing this. And it's going to make sense to you by the time we're done talking about it. And then after that, we will get into the decode today. This whole immigration thing was a straw man. It was allowed and created over the course of the last 5 decades through multiple conservative presidents and a deep state, if you want to believe that. I believe that each president knows exactly who the deep state is, and they're both being manipulated by it, the shadow government. A deep state that Trump still refuses to name and still refuses to send all of these National Guard and Marines to go root out the deep state, but he's quick to go and root out illegals. Now let that sink in for a minute. He has the resources. The Marines will show up when he says. The National Guard will show up when he says. Why isn't he sending these very same people to arrest and root out the deep state? They have still yet to be named, haven't they? And instead, the solution to a problem that was intentionally allowed to embed itself in the American culture, they have become the fall guy. And it's all by design. Now, again, this needed to happen. But how are they using this issue to erode American personal freedoms? Well, Trump already showed his hand with Project Gotham, which was announced a week ago, just before all this kicked off. Tracking, tracing, pre-crime, AI algorithms for the American citizens. Notice the timing of it all. The timing is the dead giveaway. Project Gotham is the most significant advance on American privacy rights and freedoms by a government in U.S. history. And it just so happens to coincide with the most aggressive clash with illegals? Is this an accident? The two dovetail intentionally because the very tactics used to track down the illegals are the same tactics being used on American citizens under Project Gotham by Palantir. And think about this for a second. What you're seeing play out now with Marines and National Guard showing up to Los Angeles is literally the only scenario in which Marines could be sent on American soil. What's that scenario? Well, to challenge people who aren't supposed to be here, illegals. Oh, how convenient. How convenient. It's a Trojan horse. They literally created the scenario under which they could acclimate us to Marines on the ground in American cities. It's literally the only scenario under which people would accept that happening, right? Because think about it. What if it was a black protest? They couldn't send Marines for that because those are American citizens. Do you see the problem here? I hope you see this, because to me, it's clear. Now, let's talk about Project Gotham, because apparently people still aren't alarmed about this. What if tomorrow the algorithm plugged in all of my online posts and thought that, oh, since he tells people not to vote and don't trust the government, we need to monitor him. The algorithms say he needs to be monitored. And then at some point they decide they're going to shut down my social media profile. You guys, this sounds like China. And if Joe Biden passed the very same thing, if he launched Project Gotham on American citizens, we would be up in arms, wouldn't we? But for some reason, Trump gets a pass. Because he's hiding behind this whole ICE thing. Everybody's focused on that. Well, hey, at least he's finally doing something about illegal immigration. And so what's happening now is exactly what we said was going to happen. We warned about this. I said they're going to use the Hispanics in America to advance a more sinister agenda. We said those words. And here it is. It's happening right now. And it was all on display in this movie we decoded 4 months ago before Trump even took office. The movie 2073. Here's the trailer that we uploaded. Night drones. Over American cities. Enter the stars. And something very strange is happening. In the 1990s, a film called Escape from LA released, and it was all about fire tornadoes engulfing Los Angeles. In fact, there were mass deportations. People were denaturalized in the film as well. They had their citizenships revoked. And there was a president who said he would be the last president. There was surveillance, and they were essentially imprisoned on an island in Los Angeles. An island surrounded by a swamp on the left of your screen, a swamp that almost resembles the profile of Donald Trump. Now here's where things get spooky, because I overlaid a map of the fires happening in Los Angeles. And as you can see, it almost appears as though his hair is on fire. Palantir, AI. This was 4 months ago, you guys. Drones flying over American cities. The police state. Border enforcement. Robot dogs. AI police state surveillance. U.S. military. Jared Kushner. Ivanka Trump. Chairwoman Trump celebrates 30th year in power. Looting, rioting, police state.
Americans change. You understand that?
Casey, that'll never happen. You're just being cynical. Well, it's happening right now under a scenario that very few people could have imagined would happen. But when you know the end game of the power trippers and controllers, then you know what's going to happen. But if you believe we live in a country with a two-party system and voting matters and we can win and Donald Trump wants the best for this country, then you can never imagine a scenario like that, right? The woman in this movie, 2073 is the name of the movie, was the precog in Minority Report. She was the precog in Minority Report, pre-crime. Palantir just launched Project Gotham pre-crime. They are in this movie. They were literally telling you what was going to happen. Casey, you're a cynic. You just make all this stuff up. Afraid not. Afraid not. Now, of course, right now, Los Angeles looks just like this movie, with Palantir running Project Gotham on Americans and illegals, tracking and tracing, monitoring. There's drones flying overhead right now. Ankle monitors, electronic tracking devices, cell phone trackers. We read about all of this. These are the tactics that they're using on the illegals. The non-violent illegals, they're tracking and tracing. The violent ones are being deported to the prison. It's all happening right now. And if you want to call me a cynic, I guess I'll wear that badge honorably. Because when you try to warn people for the last 12 years of your life, still averaging minimum wage income, yes, God provides, but nobody's getting rich over here. And you try to warn everybody about what's around the corner, and you're 99% right over the course of 12 years. You tell me how frustrated you would get. And yet we're still able to laugh and joke about some of this stuff from time to time. But the truth is the truth. So I wear cynicism and its label as a badge. Now, my hope is that at some point, people will figure this out and get on the right side of history. Get on the right side of spiritual history, because this isn't about American history or even world history for that matter. This is about spiritual history. This is about what happens when Christ returns. And either he's going to say, I never knew you. Oh, Lord, what do you mean you never knew me? I'm saved. I believed in you. No, you didn't believe in me. You didn't believe in my kingdom coming because you kept voting for men who were enslaving you. And you kept believing their promises, even though I've told you over and over again that every man is a liar. You believed in the false prophecies that everything's going to get better, that we're entering in a golden age. When I've told you in the Bible that the false prophets are the ones that tell you that there's no judgment coming and that everything's fine. My true prophets were prophets of judgment, and they told you the judgment was coming. And yet you still believed that things were going to be great again. You guys, we let this police state in by falling for the illegal immigrant trap. And I told you again that they would be the catalyst. I remember specifically these discussions. I said to you, remember we said, wait a minute. Why are they so focused on the black white paradigm? Why do they keep stoking up these racial tensions? Heck, this was during the pandemic when the cities were burning and it was black against white. And Trump was flexing, saying he was going to send in the National Guard. I think it was Minnesota. And we had these discussions and I said, it's weird that there isn't any racial tension between whites and Hispanics. Because in my mind, I grew up around Hispanics and I saw the gang problem way back when I was a young man. I saw that, that there was, it just seems natural that there would be tension between Hispanics and whites, and there never was. And I told you, I said, there will come a day where they become the fodder for the New World Order. They're just waiting to see how to use them. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Notice how there's no black white problems anymore. There's no more police beatings of black people put on the mainstream news. They just pivoted. The dead giveaway with these controllers is they can't really do two things at once, can they? They focus all their efforts into one thing. So now you don't see any black police shooting videos and all this stuff. Remember, we got bombarded with that for years. Now all we see is Hispanic gang members paraded out all over the news and these clashes with Hispanics now. It's now their turn. And I hope if you're new to this channel, you're waking up to this. This isn't a Trump bashing channel. This isn't a Biden bashing channel or Kamala Harris bashing channel. This is a channel that exposes the controllers that keep you and me divided through their top-down chaos magic. That's what this channel is about. We put our faith in Jesus Christ and his kingdom to come. Not man's earthly kingdoms, Christ's kingdom. That's what we're supposed to be praying for every day. Now, Casey, all you do is complain all the time. Well, there's a dozen other ways that we could have solved this immigration problem. It could have been solved a long, long time ago without house-to-house fighting and inciting riots and clashing with a very large group of Hispanics. If you grew up in LA, there are entire cities of Hispanic people. What do they think that they're going to gain by this? Nothing. They can't do it. The only way that what they're doing is intentionally creating violence on purpose. Now, I explained how to come up with a solution for this probably a year ago is when it began to coalesce into a coherent solution. I said, you make it illegal for states to harbor, pay, or give benefits to illegals. You focus on the employers. You focus on the governors who are intentionally resisting. You start with the largest employers first, and you work your way down to smaller and smaller employers until you get all the way down to the homeowner who's trying to save a little money by having illegals mow their lawn. You write felony. These are felony federal charges because by hiring, harboring, or giving benefits to an illegal, you are undermining national security. And as soon as you start writing people tickets for felonies, they will fire all of their illegals. The economy will self-adjust. And literally, these illegals will be literally turning themselves in because they have no food to eat. They have nowhere to stay because who's going to want to catch a felony for having illegals staying with them at their house? Does this make any sense? I hope it does. It's a logical and real solution. You focus on the employers, and I would rather have it that way than have this huge invasion of our privacy for American citizens and the development of the technocracy. We don't need identification for us. We don't need iris scans, retinal scans. We don't need tracking. They're doing this to someday roll it out to all of us. Now, yes, you go and root out the violent illegals. So if you need to go into an apartment building where a bunch of violent illegals are running drugs, yes, absolutely. Nobody would argue with that. But what's happening now is different. They're not going after the employers. They're literally going house to house almost. You guys, LA has turned into a war zone. It's looking like Iraq. So let me reiterate No food, no driver's licenses, no work, no benefits, no resources. And you have the American citizen's fear of catching a felony for hiring someone to mow their lawn. And at that point, there's no resources for illegals to stay here. They have to go home. Now, if you think that my plan wouldn't work, look around you. Look at all the businesses still paying illegals. You guys, I live in rural Arkansas in a little town, and I drive down the street and I see illegals mowing the lawn still. Okay, why aren't those employers getting in trouble for paying those people to stay here? You see the problem here? You see the problem. ICE should go town to town, handing out felonies to restaurants, corporations, governors, and very quickly the word will get out. And as I said, these illegals will start to turn themselves in just so they can get a hot meal. They'll have more people to deport than they'll know what to do with. Literally walking into the ICE facilities because there's nowhere to sleep. There's nowhere to get food. But of course, we know that this isn't about that. This isn't about reasonably and peaceably deporting people. This is all about advancing the police state. This is all about the intentional escalation of violence. This is all about getting people used to and accustomed to drones flying overhead, getting them used to identification systems, tracking, tracing. That's what this is about. Now, let's get into Men in Black 3. This almost should have been a separate show, right? Let's get into it, though. This isn't going to take very long. Men in Black 3. We've been on a series of films from 2012 when Trump was 66 years old. This is the latest. We already covered Brave, the animation. We covered The Dark Knight Rises from 2012. Trump was 66 in both of those and several other films. Now, why are we covering Men in Black 3? Well, Trump was 66 in 2012, and Emma Thompson is now 66 years old. She was in the movie. And this places this film directly in our current timeline. And the film is all about time travel. Remember, Trump is Biff. Back to the Future. Warp, speed, stargates, everything that he talks about is about time travel. And this is the theme in Men in Black 3. Now, let's go back because Men in Black 1, the first one, Tommy Lee Jones was talking about the aliens that live among us, that they landed in Queens, New York, Corona Park. This is just so happens to be where Trump grew up. And Trump made a replica of this World's Fair globe that you see on your right. It's called the Unisphere. He made a replica of this to put in front of his international hotel, doubling down on the whole Corona Park. It's almost like he was signaling that one day there would be a coronavirus. Corona Park, coronavirus, and this whole alien meme from Men in Black. And I believe, if I remember correctly, when we decoded this globe that's the replica in front of his international hotel, I believe that he built that when Men in Black 1 came out. If I remember correctly, I think it was 1997, I want to say. Now, if this is already starting to sound silly to you, this Corona Park World's Fair is depicted in several movies associated with time travel and aliens. It was the central theme in the film The World of Tomorrow. We decoded that. And of course, all the Men in Black films have this globe as well in Corona Park. That's where this globe is. It's the monument in Corona Park at the World's Fair. Now, the film opens with this villain, Boris. He's an alien, and his plan is to trigger an alien invasion by going back in time to prevent the Golden Dome from being built. The Golden Dome is what blocked his species from invading Earth, and they basically starved to death because they couldn't get to the next planet. Why do I call it the Golden Dome? Well, it's the ArcNet in the movie is what it's called. But as you can see, Trump's Golden Dome idea looks a lot like the globe that he already had built in front of his international hotel. And it looks like the ArcNet in the movie Men in Black 3, which is essentially space-based weapons to guard the Earth. Let's take a look, you guys. Men in Black 3. This is unbelievable. There's Emma Thompson. She is now 66 years old, placing this film directly in our current timeline. Trump was 66 when the film came out. She is the leader in the film. She's the boss, just like Trump is the boss now. Let's keep watching here.
Oh, cool for you. What do you need from me, man?
The device. I'm going back in time to kill a man before he takes my arm.
Next, you're going to see Bill Gates, Lady Gaga, Brainoid, they call him. He's an alien. Lady Gaga, an alien. Justin Bieber's on here. This is their monitor that shows all of the undercover aliens that are posing as humans in the movie.
Heroic action, including implementation of the ArcNet defense system, which protected the Earth from a Bogladite invasion and led to the race's extinction.
There is no K.
So, Boris is a Bogladite, and the ArcNet was supposed to protect Earth from the Bogladite invasion, as you just heard. Bogladite clearly has the word gold in it. Goldadite. Golden Dome is ArcNet confirmed. Now, this, of course, is Emma Thompson, who's, again, now 66 years old, same age Trump was when this movie released. And in the movie, she's the commander of the Men in Black. And the aliens, so they all come to the command center. Of course, you remember the Men in Black plot. There's aliens in and out of the command center alongside of humans. And Emma Thompson goes by the name O, like the letter O. So here we are now in our timeline, and Trump is, I believe, the commander of the aliens, just like the role O plays. Trump knows there are aliens. He might even be one. And when I say aliens, I'm talking about demon-possessed time jumpers who have jumped down through time into our current timeline through demon possession. Let's keep watching.
Chocolate milk relieves temporal fracture headaches.
Now, when Boris goes back in time, he changes the timeline. He literally kills Tommy Lee Jones. Will Smith then wakes up in the new timeline where there is no Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones goes by the name K, if you haven't figured that out. And in the new timeline, there's no Tommy Lee Jones and there's no ArcNet. So Will Smith goes in to talk to O, the commander, played by Emma Thompson, and he tries to explain what's going on. He's like, "Where's K?" And she's like, "There is no K." And he has this weird craving for chocolate milk because of the time change. And what does the chocolate milk represent? Now that you have eyes to see and ears to hear, if you've been following this channel, you know exactly what his craving for chocolate milk means. Let's go into the chat. So I know there's somebody who's going to get the answer. Now, this is a weird one because this took me a minute to figure out the chocolate milk. I'm like, what are they on about this chocolate milk thing? But you all know what the chocolate milk is about. So let's hear it from our top super sleuths out there. Remember, this is Corona Park, where they're at. Chocolate milk. Good morning, everybody. Rise and shine. I know it's early. Jamie says, got milk. Yeah, that's part of it. Good job, Jamie. There are no wrong answers. Chocolate milk. There you go. Rebecca says, Molek, getting close. You guys are getting warm. Missing kids. That's part of it. Okay, think about what chocolate milk looks like and think about time travel. This is a little bit more advanced. And it's early. Some of you hadn't had your coffee yet. Okay, so all those answers are right, but let me give you a more specific answer. The chocolate milk is the swamp water. Remember, Corona Park was built on a swamp. It's the toilet water. It's Back to the Future, where Doc Brown discovered time travel on a toilet because there's a spiral and it's brown water. It looks like chocolate milk that goes down a spiral drain. And he discovered that on the 5th of November, which is the portal date. It's Samhain. It's the festival of the witches, where they say the veil is lowest and the Pleiades are at their zenith in the sky. And this is where possession happens. And they go into these standing stones and they possess each other. They go into a new host body. As clear as we can tell from all the research. So there you have some proof. The toilet, the chocolate milk, the swamp water, the swamp, the pools of water. Remember, the Smurfs came in through a pool, a dark pool, which is an agam. AGAM is a dark pool of water. A swamp, remember? And agam backwards is MAGA. I hope this is all starting to sink in. And more proof is the KFC commercial where the chicken, the golden egg, there's a dark baptism where it goes into, they say it's gravy, but literally it's, again, the dark pool. It's the portal. It's how they come through, how the spirit possesses through this dark water. So all those answers are correct. Yes, there's all this stuff associated with milk, but it's the chocolate in the milk that's the giveaway. Okay, now let's keep going with this. Now, something else hit me. Because time travel, let's keep watching this here. Hold on.
What's a temporal fracture?
A break in the timeline.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Time travel. Time travel.
Time travel. Now, time travel is TT. But now, based on all of our research, I think, again, these concepts are starting to coalesce. What is TT? Well, I believe TT represents events of mass sacrifice. And this is when the portals open, like the Twin Towers, TT. Also, TT 2020, because T is the 20th letter of the alphabet. That's when COVID happened, 19 years after the Twin Towers. 19 hijackers, COVID-19, 19 tridents along the face of the Twin Towers. None of that's an accident. Another mass sacrifice event. This is when the portals and stargates open under Trump's warp speed. This is why time is speeding up and everything seems to be moving so fast. And then an idea popped into my head. Maybe there is a connection between sacrifice and the timeline in the spiritual realm. And maybe this is why God said that he had to cut those days short to preserve the flesh, because there would be no flesh left. So the more flesh that gets sacrificed, it's like they're trying to speed up the timeline. They shall seek to change times and laws. Wow, what a time to be alive, you guys. What a time to be alive. So Will Smith goes back in time and he finds the ArcNet. And it's a gift from an alien race who wants to help save Earth to prevent the alien invasion from the Boglodites. Let's watch.
Put up the ArcNet.
The what?
The ArcNet, the defense system. Kay got it specifically for the Boggledites.
He pulls the ArcNet out of a Cracker Jack box full of golden Cracker Jacks. The Golden Dome. The actual device is kind of golden as well, but the technology inside is blue, which I believe represents AI, artificial intelligence.
Shield.
It's the surprise. To protect the Earth, it's the shield.
Arcanan, ArcNet. That's what you did. You put up the ArcNet. How did I do that?
The ArcNet.
Now this part's crazy because Boris steals the ArcNet and he drives by the Unisphere globe, and that's when it hit me. The Unisphere is the ArcNet. Oh, they said, oh, this is about satellites. No, they already knew Trump was going to make the Golden Dome. Back when this Unisphere went up. Now, we're going to break down the Unisphere at the end of the show today, but this is insane. Corona Park, where Trump was born. Wow.
Give it to me.
I don't think this is the one where you get it now. They're right there, Chief.
There it is. There's a side-by-side. You can't make this up. The men in black then rescue the alien, the Arcanan, who has the ArcNet. They get him back from Boris, and the Arcanian has hidden the ArcNet in his forehead and in his right hand. How many times do we have to see the predictive programming before millions of people wake up to it?
When you're being hunted by Boris the animal, you get good at hiding things.
The forehead in the right hand. The mark of the beast. Well, Casey, what does a Golden Dome have to do with the mark of the beast? It is the control mechanism, Skynet, Starlink, that will force you to accept something to be able to buy and sell. As soon as we go cashless, it will all be digital. And all the digital will have to do with everything up there, above and below. They need the Golden Dome. They need Starlink, Skylink, Skynet, whatever they are calling it these days, in order to have the complete control mechanism, the algorithms, the computing power, and on and on and on, in order to implement the mark of the beast. Right now, they can't do it with cash. They're trying to get rid of cash. Only then will they have complete control, because they'll be able to monitor everything. The social credit score will come in. They'll be able to track and trace. They'll be able to know all of your transactions. That's what the blockchain was about. A ledger, a digital ledger. Every single transaction will be tracked. And once that's in place, they'll be able to say, okay, now you can't buy or sell unless you have an identification system. Because guess what? If there's still cash around, they won't be able to do that, right? So at this point, they learn that the ArcNet Golden Dome has to be deployed from space. So their plan is to attach it to the Apollo 11 rocket, because they're in the year 1969. And of course, Trump is Apollo. Let's watch.
It's just one small step.
All you have to do is deploy it.
You mean in space? Well, how do you suppose we do that? Canaveral, Apollo launch.
There's the Golden Dome right there. Remember, the blue represents the AI. Wow. Now, again, this release when Trump was 66 years old, And as you saw, the Unisphere globe is the central theme. We're going to break down the Unisphere globe, and then we'll end the show. I was going to do some headlines, but we'll take care of those tomorrow because it's a long show. Again, this is the Unisphere globe. There are 48, or were 48 jets, these fountains around the globe. In 1964, when it was dedicated. So what happens when you add 48 years to 1964? You get 2012, when this Men in Black 3 film came out, in which Trump was 66, and they showed us the ArcNet, the Golden Dome. In other words, the Unisphere was a timeline. Now, are there any other numerical synchronicities connecting the Unisphere to Trump's future? Yes, there were. In addition to 48 jets and then 48 years to the movie Men in Black after this was dedicated, Men in Black 3, we also have 52 years after the Unisphere was dedicated. And that's when Trump would win the first term in 2016. So I looked for any 52 numbers, which would indicate they knew when he would become president. And yes, there is. The original proposal for this monument was a 52-meter inverted cone. This was the original plan for the Unisphere. 52 years later, Trump would become president. Time travel confirmed. This is a spiral. This is the toilet flushing at the swamp in Corona Park. Unbelievable. The chocolate milk. How about Trump's second term? Is that encoded in the Unisphere? Yes, it is. 60 years after the Unisphere was dedicated would be his second term. And absolutely, the number 60 is all over this Unisphere. Its concept was actually originated in 1960, and it was 160 feet tall. Now, construction began on the 65th day of 1963, which, if 1963 was a leap year, which it's not, but if it was a leap year, that would have been the 66th day of the year. Wow. Now, what happens when you add 66 years to the original Unisphere when it was dedicated? Well, if you add 66 years to 1964, it comes out to 2030, the year 2030. Now, what does that mean? Well, everything seems to be pointing to 2030. Heck, we just did a decode on the movie from yesterday called Hear My Voice, or The Sound of My Voice. And she said she was born in 2030. So there's something about this date related to time travel in these time travel movies, right? Now here's where things get creepy. Yeah, they always get creepy, right? And I say that because when I say things get creepy, it's not because I'm afraid or I'm really creeped out. I'm trying to trigger people to wake up that these are not normal synchronicities. There's something happening here. That's why I say this, because people can relate to that, going, that's not supposed to be there, right? Okay, you ready for this? Arnie Abramovich became the administrator of the Flushing Meadows Corona Park in 1986. Soon began planning a renovation of the park. Marina Abramovich Now, there's no relation between these two because I looked it up as far as we know. And I couldn't even tell if this guy was from the same country that she is. But this is really weird, isn't it? The word play here. Now, here's the bombshell. Undeniable proof. If you made it to the end of this video, it's because you know in your heart that something is not right here. Here is the solid proof where you can leave this video and realize that everything you just saw is real. This is the Unisphere in Corona Park. Here it is right here. It's still there to this day in Google Earth. And all I did was try to figure out where this thing was pointing based on this causeway here, as you can see, the causeway that's been there since the 1939 World's Fair. Now, there was a different globe in the 1939 World's Fair. That was the original one. That was called the Perisphere. And there was a big giant needle next to it. Well, that was dismantled. And then in 1964, they erected the Unisphere, which was a copy. And then in 1997, Trump copied that and put it in front of his international hotel. So that's the timeline. Look at where this thing is pointing to. 66 degrees. It's as if this Unisphere was designed to be waiting for Trump to come to power. And now it seems to be pointing forward to the year 2030. You can go into Google Earth right now, draw a line with the measure tool, and align it to this walkway pointing to the Unisphere, and it will point to 66 degrees. So that's it, you guys. Call me a cynic. I wear that badge proudly if it means waking people up to the lies and the supernatural connections going back in film history that all point to the current agenda. Just wow. Now, tomorrow we'll get into some headlines. I was going to do those today, but this is a long show. We already did 2 topics, the LA protests and Men in Black. So that's probably enough. I don't want to blow your mind too much today, but tomorrow we'll get into some headlines. But let's hang out in the chat for a little bit before we go. What are your guys' thoughts on all this? Now, understand, my mind gets blown every single day covering this stuff. Okay? It's almost too much to bear sometimes. You know, I've pretty much isolated myself out here. I don't have any friends really. You know, I've done that to myself because I feel like the Holy Spirit is telling me to focus on this right now. Like there's no time. It's almost like we're reaching some kind of conclusion and I need to stay focused. So no offense to my friends who I don't hang out with anymore, but this is what I've been called to do. And it's not a walk for everybody. This isn't what everyone's supposed to do, but this is my walk. I have to have 100% allegiance to the Lord to finish this work, no matter what, no matter if I'm hated online, no matter what. And so this is what I got to do. So, yep, the Space Force, that's all part of the Golden Dome. They already knew this agenda from the beginning. Trump was already putting moves in his first presidency. He was already aligning with Peter Thiel and Palantir. There's video of him together. You know, it's the same playbook. Of course, the pandemic hit, but behind the scenes, they were building the technocracy. Remember, Trump passed 5G and beyond during the pandemic, during the lockdowns. They were building the 5G technology all around us. This has been going on since the beginning, and they're being insincere when they try to tell us that, oh, this is all brand new. And then even Biden took the football during the Biden presidency, continued 5G and beyond, which is necessary for driverless vehicles. You can't do driverless vehicles with 4G technology. And it's even difficult to do with 5G, but then Starlink is what bridges the gap because it's satellite based. This is our future. There is no immigrants, and yeah, there are, but all of this is created as distraction so that they can continue to build this. Their goal is to bring in the mark. And in order to do that, they need to set up the technocracy. It has to be set up. They can't do it without it. And Trump's part of that, and Biden's part of it, and Obama was part of it, and Bush was part of it. There is no voting. It's not real. Your vote doesn't matter. They take polls and they figure out which president can we put in on which side of the aisle to keep advancing the football. And everybody's asleep because all they care about is Trump's doing something about illegal immigration. You're not seeing the big picture. You're seeing the problem that they created that they're solving to advance the agenda. That's what you're seeing. It's a Trojan horse. And I know I get fired up sometimes, but this is what people need to hear. This is the truth. I'm not going to be a false prophet and tell you the lies. Oh, everything's going to be fine. Hey, as long as we vote conservative, hey, Trump's going to fix everything. Trust him. That would be a false prophet. False prophets tell you everything's fine and there's no judgment coming. The good news is we're at the end. Because all this has advanced so rapidly, that means we're close to the end. But where do you want to be when Christ returns? That's how I started out this discussion today. Where do you want to be? Is he going to say, I never knew you because you voted and because you said, yeah, get rid of those illegals and who cares what rights we have to give up? And, oh, don't care about Trump's past and all that. No big deal. He's changed. And who cares if we don't get the Epstein files? Big deal. Let's just... Which side of the spiritual aisle are you going to be on? Will you be one that he says you helped advance that? You helped to bring in the mark of the beast through your fear. And because you didn't believe in my new kingdom to come, you helped bring it in with your consent. Because you didn't have faith. You got jabbed with something because you didn't have faith. And make no mistake, that will tie in to all this at some point. So, I love each and every one of you. I will see you tomorrow with the headlines. I'll put links to all this. I'm curious to hear your comments in the comments section. Not thumbsing up a video isn't going to allow you to hide, okay? Palantir artificial intelligence is already here. So we might as well just go out with it, right? The only way this video is going to reach other people, that's the only act of activism that I ask you guys to do, okay? I don't even think it's your responsibility to support me. You don't see me on here begging for you to support me. Oh, I can't pay my bills. No. If you want to, you can. But it is not your personal responsibility to do that. The only thing I ask for you guys to do is show up, watch the videos, and thumbs up the video so that the algorithms, so we can hold the algorithms accountable so they will be forced to share the video. We're still not reaching the rest of the truth community. When I talk about that, I'm talking about all the people that go to Joe Rogan, all the people that go to the mainstream truth channels, all the people that go to Alex Jones. None of them are seeing our videos. We're still stuck in this little corner of YouTube. So I know family and friends aren't going to be open to this, but we still have a lot of work to do. There should be 4,000 people watching this video today in the live show from other truth channels. I can't imagine there's any more profound information that you're hearing on other truth channels that's any more important than what you heard today. So the quality of the work is there. We just need to have you guys mention our channel when you're in other chats. Hey, there's a great morning show. Go check out Enter the Stars. He's breaking this stuff down. When you're in other people's chats. Talk about the channel. Because if we exist in silos, that will be our downfall. It's a small act of faith to help get the word out. I love each and every one of you. Have a great rest of your day. Much love. Take care and be safe, you guys.